what's up? It's Friday, so I'm gonna keep it black, but I'm gonna keep it brief. Trigger warning, I'm not even gonna hold y'all. It's gonna get graphic in the second half. It's Black History Month, and it seems like y'all are deliberately showing y'all's asses. 20 HBCUs have received bomb threats since February 1st, following the initial threats made in January of this year. My alma mater, Spelman College, has received 3 bomb threats this month. After the second one, the FBI said it was a group of white boys they were able to apprehend, but then they received another one on February 8th. Just a college full of black girls minding their black ass business, not nobody's headline, not bothering nobody. What is wrong with y'all? On February 2nd, police in Minneapolis killed another black man who was in his home sleeping after using a no-knock warrant. Yes, be angry. Amir Lock, this 22-year-old boy at this point, because he has so much life ahead of him, was murdered after he was shocked out of his sleep after reflectively reaching for his licensed weapon. There's body cam footage available on the internet. I'm not watching that. I can't. I'm tired. We were only a split second away from having another case almost identical to Ahmaud Arbery's when DeMontario Gibson was in his uniform making FedEx deliveries and was chased down in a FedEx van by 2 white men firing shots at him in Brookhaven, Mississippi. It says here that happened on January 24th. Well, it's leaking into our 28 days. You know what else is leaking into our 28 days? Joe Rogan's use of the N-word with a hard R over and over and over again. I have never seen a white man use the N-word so many times in real life. Who is Joe Rogan? The Fear Factor man. But he apologized. And while he was more apologetic than they usually are, he still used the scapegoat. Yeah, I made a mistake, but I'm not racist. And I wasn't being racist when I said it. Boy! It's giving what's referred to as bigotry denial syndrome, according to Professor Eric Deggans at Duke University. This occurs when your own moral licensing, or a self-evaluation of what kind of person you are, leads you to believe that because you are a good person with good intentions, then you are incapable of being a bigot. Black people were not enslaved until the 1960s. We ought to be cutting up like this during Black History Month. The disrespect. 1960? Yep, and Keke Palmer is starring in the movie that's coming about it now. Ugh, not another slave movie. I gotta say, I'm gonna have to watch it, because this period in history is widely overlooked. Have I talked to y'all about peonage debt? Well, it's been 87 episodes, so I'm sure you have. Well then, as I'm sure you know, peonage debt, or the forced labor arranged to pay off a debt, and sharecropping became ways to extend the use of black labor in plantations past the 13th Amendment. Yeah, but that's not the same thing as slavery. The NWCP handled letters making cases for family members trying to free their loved ones who had been entrapped on plantations well into the 1950s. Historian genealogist Antoinette Harrell has unearthed cover-ups of individuals enslaved at least up until 1963 in Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Florida. At least 20 people had become indebted to the owner of the Waterford plantation in St. Charles Parish, Louisiana, and as a condition of their employment, they were not allowed to leave the plantation. They suffered beatings, starvation, and rape, while literally slaving for these white people in the 20th century. And when it came time for harvest to see if they made good on their debt, each time they were told no and forced to stay and work for another season. Why don't we hear about these stories? Because many of these people are terrified to go public because families who own these plantations are still in powerful positions with the government connections and funds to make these people's lives a living hell. Again. And for some of them, the PTSD is so bad that they are terrified to this day that somebody's going to drag them back to working on the plantation. And here's where it gets worse. May Louise Miller was enslaved until 1963 and has been very vocal about her story. She was born into enslavement and didn't know life to be any different for other kids. When she was old enough, she was forced to go work in a big house. What that meant, she was to be raped by whatever men were present. And sometimes it would be side by side with her mother. And at one point, she refused, saying that she wasn't going to go work in the big house again. Brace yourself. Her father was so terrified that they were going to kill her that he beat her himself, bloody. And that was the night she ran away. And why am I giving you all these gritty details? Because this, folks, was in 1963. And while May Louise Miller is no longer with us, she and her family's story illustrates how the effects of enslavement are still affecting people today. Illustrates a more recent iteration of how enslavement immediately affected black family makeups, methods of disciplining our children, the traumatization black mothers and fathers face with their very little options to protect their children. So the arguments that slavery is over, that we were never oppressed, that black people don't need a whole month, keep them to yourself.